The marked graves are from the settlers that I think lived in First House, because they're earlier than the other ones that the people lived in Second House. But I was wondering if there were Indian graves in here. And I think there might be, looking at it. I don't know how you would ever tell that, but I didn't realize there's as many other graves in here as there are. But it's such a large area that's, enclosed in stone. There's definitely a lot of graves in here that aren't marked. And I can see where a lot of them are. With the stone are on top. And I'm just really suspicious that they might be in early Indian burial before the settlers were buried in here. Well, the wall, I'm not sure when the wall would have been done. It's definitely been redone and stones have been restacked, but that it's possible that the wall was put up around the cemetery to protect the cemetery at a lot later date. It may not have been to outline the boundary of the cemetery for burials. It probably was done later. But I was curious about it because I was wondering what the rock wall did look like. And it looks like it's more recent than what I was looking for. There's so much to explore in these woods. They're just, they've been uninhabited for so long. Who knows what's in here? The trails seem to go, the old trails, the old Indian trails especially, which is what we built all of our trail system and roads on, basically. But the Indian trails always stayed kind of on a ridge. They were kind of always on a high spot. And when you're looking for an old trail, that's kind of what you have to look for. This remains a trail high, not down low in the valleys. Well, when Carl Fisher developed Montauk, he put the road in. This was the road to Montauk, but he put the road in that's over near the ocean. That's called the Old Montauk Highway, which it really isn't. And he made a deal with the town somehow, so they would put a road in across Snappeg, and that they would tear this road out. He didn't want this road, so they tore a lot of the macadam out at the beginning, but they didn't do the whole road. So this part, that's the reason it's still kind of a macadam road at this point, because no one usually came back this far anyway. And then the other road, the highway we use now to go all the way through to Montauk, was put up by Robert Moses when Robert Moses was having this feud with Carl Fisher. Because Carl Fisher didn't want anybody in Montauk except who he wanted in Montauk. Right? No one's bothered it too much over the years. Breath. Rocks all over. He basically, there's a trench deeper than what it is now. This is actually part of it. And it went around to keep the water going around the side, and then collected in the ditches that he had dug down there. And the entrance is there. I think it's pretty cool though. This is basically the wigwam ruins from Stephen Talkhouse. Now that is what's been passed down in history, and there's no reason to not believe it, I guess. But I think it was when he was a lot younger, before he went to fight in the Civil War. And it was basically a wigwam feature. The poles would have been around where the rocks are. The rocks probably helped support the poles. And it was a conical structure covered with thatch. And there was a trench behind it and down each side that went into these holes that contained the water, that held the water. But he had fresh water from Flaggy Hole, from the stream that runs under, down in the valley. So he had plenty of water. Well, I disagree with that. The plaque they have for the for his house, I disagree with everything that's got on there, because he wasn't really, couldn't have been a direct descendant of Wyandanch, because Wyandanch's only son died during the diseases that they had when they lived in East Hampton, Weekenville, and he was buried in Panico Hill. He had a daughter that I don't know if anybody. She was married to a. Who the heck was she married to? Can't remember his name. But there's not any indication that she had a son either. But in the house, it wasn't. This was definitely a wigwam, because I know what they're thinking. It said he lived in a framed house when he died, and that was in Rods Valley, off of Rods Valley. It wasn't up in here. And as far as the pits being storage barns, they would have been full of water, because the trench from behind the wigwam came down and went. It was a lot more visible years ago. It's not as visible now, but there's a definite trench that went all the way around the back of the feature and down right into those holes. So they would have been filled with water all the time. You couldn't really use them as storage pits.